Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Note to Self. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing all about the sacred plant medicine that is Iboga. Typically, I save the plant medicine subject matter for my YouTube channel, Zoe Ariel. I have playlists on both Iboga and ayahuasca, sharing about my personal experiences and my recommendations, and just overall content to support you if this is something that you're curious about, whether it is curious about partaking in ceremonies yourself or it's something you've heard about but you don't have too much information on. I definitely vastly cover this subject matter on my channel. So I'll leave the link to my playlists down below, but it's on my heart to share today because I just returned back from a very transformative week at Iboga Wellness Center in Costa Rica, and it's so potent on my heart to share with you what I experienced and the profound effect that it's had on my life and what I've been navigating lately. I've been quite open on this podcast about the grief journey of losing my brother, and that was my main intention around going to Costa Rica and taking part in an Iboga retreat. But before I get into the details of that, I just want to share a little bit about this plant medicine, where it comes from, what it is, and how it works. It's a plant medicine that I've been working with for the past 3 years. I've actually gone down to Iboga Wellness Center several times to support and co-facilitate in ceremonies. And during my time there, I have seen the most incredible, profound miracles, transformations, and changes within people. And that's why it's on my heart to share these messages, because I trust that those of you listening, especially if you're listening with curiosity, if you're feeling the call a little bit, I just hope that what I have to share today can help alleviate some of the nerves or anxieties or questions that you may have. I am an Iboga preparation, integration support coach as well. If this is something that you are A, curious about, B, signed up and ready for, but could just use some support in outlining what your intentions are, your questions are for the medicine, etc., or if it's something that you're integrating. So I'll also leave the link down below for that, and I'll touch a little bit more on that later on in the episode. But for now, let's dive in. What is Iboga? I'm referring to it as a plant medicine. I will put a disclaimer in here. I am not a doctor. This is just what this medicine is known for. This plant is known for healing mind, body, soul in different ways. Of course, I always recommend speaking to your practitioner, the people around you that are of guidance, for example, a therapist or your coach. If you're feeling the call to try something out like this, just make sure that you are medically fit and in the right space too. So Iboga is a sacred psychoactive plant medicine native to Central and West Africa, particularly revered by the Bwiti spiritual traditions in Gabon. It is not a recreational psychedelic. It is deeply introspective and often referred to as the tree of knowledge or the teacher of truth. It is known for helping people gain access to their soul, process unresolved trauma, and receive clarity from a higher dimension of consciousness. So the way that it works, unlike other plant medicines like ayahuasca, which tend to take you out into ethereal realms, Iboga brings you inwards, into the deepest parts of your psyche. So this medicine works over many hours. Typically, you are lying down in this journey state with little movement, and the overall experience can feel like a lucid dream or a powerful life review. People often report meeting ancestors, receiving messages from their higher self, or understanding life, death, and their purpose on a deep soul level. So people seek it out because Iboga is used to heal trauma, addiction, grief, and cycles of self-sabotage. It works very potently. It's sought out by people on a spiritual path as well who want to remember who they truly are beyond the ego or programming. I will say it is intense. It's not for everyone, and it definitely requires physical, emotional, and spiritual preparation. So Iboga is not a trend or a quick fix. It is a sacred teacher that deserves deep reverence. It's my intention today to transfer the messages of how powerful and how special this sacred medicine is. It is something that has transformed my life in numerous ways over and over again. And as mentioned, I've seen time and time again in retreats how special and beautiful this medicine is. So I want to relay that it is to be received and used in reverence. It is not something, again, that you can use recreationally. You must be in ceremony with a provider, whether that's in Costa Rica, as I mentioned, Iboga Wellness Center, or you go to the source in Gabon and get initiated there. It is very important that this medicine is treated with the utmost respect and reverence. So what I'm about to share with you is my 5th flood dose journey with Iboga. So I have taken part in 3 retreats total at Iboga Wellness Center, where I have done 2 ceremonies. That's how it's laid out there, is that you enter into the retreat, and within the second day that you're there, you enter into the first ceremony. These are long ceremonies that can last up to 72 hours with the medicine. It doesn't mean that you are fully in a visioning state the entire time. Typically, when you take part in an Iboga ceremony, you take the medicine around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. at night, and within about 45 minutes, it will kick in, and you will lie down on your mattress in ceremony until 5 a.m. when the sun comes up. At that point, you might return to your room because you are fully conscious in this experience. You just might need some help walking to your room. And while you are processing, lying there on your own without the ceremony music, you'll most likely receive a lot of downloads, awarenesses, and guidance, just overall epiphanies and shifts. It is a very powerful medicine. It's going to show you many things, and that's the state that you're in until you fall asleep. When you fall asleep is when the rewiring process integrates. So this is a medicine that is very well known for working on the brain, and it will rewire your mind as you are processing, let's say, trauma, addiction, grief, self-sabotage, whatever it is that you came to work on. It's a very generous medicine. It may work on all of these things and more. And when you fall asleep, whether that's for a half an hour or a 10-hour sleep, that is when the changes that you've worked through in ceremony will become integrated. It is profound. It is much different than ayahuasca, which I've also created a video on my channel about the differences between ayahuasca and Iboga. I'm definitely in preparation mode of a part 2 because there's so much I have to share. It doesn't really feel fair or easy in any way to compare these medicines because they are so different, but I know that they are talked a lot about, or people are unsure which one to go through. What I will say is that Iboga is for people who are serious about doing the work. What I will say is that it's a lot easier than ayahuasca in the sense that Aya can be a little bit tricky. You can have fear and anxiety come up in your journey, deep feelings of abandonment. You can cry, you can purge. It can be a very visceral journey that requires your physical strength to process things, where Iboga, yes, you need to be fit for the medicine, but the hardest part is just getting there and taking the medicine. Once you take the medicine, you're lying down on your mattress and you're the gentle observer of the medicine processing fears, anxiety, shame, guilt, grief, etc. in your body. And there's not much that you have to, let's say, muscle through. You're just bearing witness to the powerful transformations. So hopefully that grants a little bit of context about how these medicines work. Of course, ayahuasca is a much shorter journey than Iboga, But what I will say is that, as mentioned, when you fall asleep after you've taken Iboga, you wake up and your brain is rewired. There's not a question about what you changed. You just simply can't go back to thinking the same way. I have had experiences where my mind has been rewired in some way because of ayahuasca, but I am typically left, or have been typically left, with questions, not fully understanding what happened in my journey, what everything meant. And what I will say about Iboga is, because it is so inward focused and it works on your brain in such a particular way, a very focused way, you understand the changes and you literally cannot return to the state of thinking that you were before. Let's say you were addicted to drugs or alcohol. There's a particular alkaloid in Iboga called Ibogaine, and that specifically cuts addiction. So once you take Iboga, and of course you ingest one of those alkaloids called Ibogaine, it cuts and breaks the addiction in your body. So my first ceremony with Iboga, I came in being aware that I had some workaholic tendencies. And within the first ceremony, those were cut completely, where I can no longer return to that state of forcing, on a level, abusing myself into working excess or overtime to prove worth to myself. So I share that because I want you to know that if addiction of some kind is something that you are struggling with, this, in comparison to something like ayahuasca, if you are fielding options for wellness retreats that will support you, I've seen incredible things happen within myself and within guests at the retreat center. There is a lot of information out there about Ibogaine specifically. There are Ibogaine specific retreats, but I would highly recommend, if you are going to partake in a plant medicine ceremony, go for Iboga. Go for the entire root of the plant, because there are several alkaloids that will support you in your healing journey. And a lot of those are not just working on the brain, but physical, spiritual, energetic, emotional. It is a very generous medicine. So I was called to sit with this medicine immediately after my brother passed away. I literally remember being in the hospital, kneeling beside his hospital bed as I said goodbye to him, and having the call present itself very strongly. And I knew that when it was the right time, that I would head down to Costa Rica and I would do the healing work. Before entering into this most recent retreat, it had been about 3 months, just over 3 months since my brother passed. And a very important part of my journey and the journey of losing my brother has been understanding grief to a much deeper level. Because of the work that I do supporting clients through life transitions, this is something that I feel, I truly believe that everything happens for us in our lives, and I can see the gifts that understanding grief to this level, the things that my brother, the synchronicities, the messages that he's left behind have deeply supported me in this journey of being a masterful coach, being able to support people through significant life change. So it was and has been very important for me to understand the throes of grief, the depth, the pain, the suffering, everything. I really see how it wouldn't have been the same if Kale passed away and the next week I flew down to Costa Rica and decided to take part in plant medicine. It had to be the right time. I knew I felt the call, but I knew in my heart and in my intuition, it's very important to listen to your intuition at all times with plant medicine journeys. I knew that it would be the right time once I'd understood and processed and leaned into healing grief on my own. So I say that just to let you know that you will know when it's the right time for you, and there is no rush, and it is not a quick fix. It is not a one magic pill and miracles and magic will happen. it truly has to be the right time for your ceremonies. And so I went down with the main intention of healing grief. I didn't know what it would look like. And as always, I recommend to people to not bring expectations into plant medicine journeys, because every journey is unique to each person. The medicine may not always give you what you want, but it will most certainly give you what you need. And that is just such a gift in itself. I bow down in reverence to this medicine for its intelligence. This plant is the most intelligent plant I have ever come across in my entire life. It is a whole other world of miracles and healing. It is so profound. Again, I'm gushing about it. My heart is just so full of gratitude for it. And it truly is challenging to put it into words because of how profound and deep these transformations and awarenesses run with this medicine, but I'll do my best. So my intention was to process the loss of my brother, and what I experienced was beyond this world. So I took the medicine and it kicked in pretty quickly. It does have a reverse tolerance, meaning the more that you take the medicine, the less you need to journey deeply. So the medicine kicked in for me within half an hour, and my brother showed up very quickly in the journey. And the way that he showed up was by telling me a joke about his death that only those of us in the hospital room with him would have gotten. And immediately when his soul entered, and when a soul enters in an Iboga ceremony is what I say is like, like I saw a lot of flashes of pictures of my brother throughout the years, but when his soul entered, it was an energetic frequency that I connected with. And this joke that he made stunned me. I was speechless until I found some words, to communicate to him. And I said, I can't believe you just said that. And he responded with, I had to say something you would never think so that you knew it was me. And in that moment, especially with the joke itself, his sense of humor, I knew it was Kale. I knew it was him. And he proceeded to say that he said, I knew that you'd be the first one up here, not because you died or anything, but because you shot yourself up here on one of those psychedelics. And I was just amazed because, again, this is my brother. I was connecting with his soul. He looked like himself. He looked, when he first connected, like when I'm talking about the joke and everything and first presented, he looked similar to what he looked like before he passed. And then he said to me, come find me in a little bit and we'll talk. So the medicine took me through more healing, different dimensions of myself, cleaning. It gives you a bit of a brain scrub, cleaning my subconscious, cleaning my body, healing my body. And then I came to a space that was the place in between worlds. This was in between earth here and heaven, the great beyond, the other side, whatever you want to call it. And this is where I had the opportunity to sit with Kale and speak with him. What it looked like was sunset type looking clouds behind us, light pink, light blue, a little bit orange. And we were sitting on underneath a big white arch. It kind of looked like something from Greece, like that white, very clean, pristine, concrete looking place. And we were sitting there and it was teenage versions of ourselves. And so we began to have a conversation. And there was, what I will say is the human part of me that was grieving was the one that was speaking with him first. And one of the first things I said to him was, I just wish I had more time with you, Kale. And he said, Zoe, you can't say that because time doesn't exist. And when he started to talk to me in this space, the things that he shared with me and said to me fully integrated into my being. As in, the wisdom, the knowledge that he was sharing was imprinting on me on an energetic level. Something that is hard to explain unless you've had an experience like this, let's say in a plant medicine ceremony where you're communicating with someone, and sometimes it's words and energy, and sometimes it's just an energetic transmission that imprints upon you. And so we went on to talk about life, what happens after death, where he is, how his death went. I actually recorded a YouTube video on this, which this podcast will come out first, and the YouTube video will go also more in depth in this. And once it is up, I will link it down below this podcast. But it was profound. There was another thing that I had to share with him because, he made a joke about his death. It was so nonchalant. It was like no big deal. And I said, Kale, your death on earth is a huge deal. People are heartbroken. This completely has shifted our lives. It's like the rug's been pulled out under us. It's been huge. It's been the most challenging thing that I've personally ever had to go through. And he said, oh, my death? It's no big deal. Like it's almost like his soul had already forgotten, or wasn't holding on to it the same way that myself, those of us on earth do when it comes to death. And I will say the way that his soul had presented itself with such radiance, such joy, such embodied love, just seeing him in that state, seeing how more than okay he was, how honestly fabulous he is on the other side, and just his overall awareness and wisdom, it was profound. This was the most life-changing plant medicine ceremony that I've ever had in my entire life. I will say that I have had many of them, but this one takes the cake for being the most highly transformative because of how it has completely shifted my perspective and understanding on our journey of life on earth, death, what happens after we die. I know that my brother is safe, more than okay, totally blissed out in the great beyond, in heaven. And I know that the next time I have to say goodbye to somebody on earth, I will have a very different grieving process or experience because I know where they are. I have seen firsthand where they are, and that in itself is life-changing. I've read books on past life regression, and I've heard podcasts or recollections of people talking about near-death experiences, and it's very similar subject matter to what Kale explained to me. But I will say that having him and his soul relay this information to me, like I said, those, past life regression books, I'm specifically thinking about Brian Weiss's work, has stayed with me. But, it was something that I would have to think about and start to feel into versus what I know now from this experience and having it fully embodied is death is different now. Grief is different now. Like I said, the next time that I have to say goodbye, I'm just going to be viewing it as that person has taken the portal to the other side, to the great beyond, and they are more than okay. And one thing that Kale said to me was, life is like a game. We'll play together again one day. And when he shared that with me, the understanding is that we enter again. We have entered before together. We will enter again simultaneously on a quantum perspective. There are lives unfolding right now. That gets a little bit esoteric. I'm not going to go in that direction today, but What I will say is that the people in your life that you may have already had to say goodbye to, or you will have to say goodbye to one day, it is not the end. You will see them again infinite amounts of time. And Kale told me that it might feel like a long time until I get to see him again, until I enter into the great beyond. But by the time that I get here, it will feel like I just blinked. And I want to share this with you because it's just really planted the seed in me that life is meant to be lived to the fullest. We are meant to follow our hearts. We are meant to not take the suffering here so seriously. We are meant to expand, to evolve, to quantum leap. We have that potential. We are infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And we are meant to come here to play and to have fun and to experience. And that's one of the key messages that I wanted to share with you today is wherever you're at, whatever you might be struggling with, perhaps just take on the lens, the idea, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. Remember that you are limitless potential, that you are abundance in the human form, that you can make magic happen. You came here to make magic happen. Like I said, I shared more about this in a YouTube video, but it was on my heart to share with you today in Note to Self. And if Iboga or plant medicine in general is something that you are curious about preparing for integrating, I would absolutely love to work with you and support you to prepare you or help you integrate this journey. I will leave the link below to that. And if there are any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, whether that be on Instagram, through email, underneath one of my YouTube videos. I love to learn about what your questions are about these experiences so that I can create more content to support you. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. There's no stupid questions, anything like that. Trust the pull on your heart if it is something that you feel called to do, because maybe there's somebody that wants to meet up with you. Maybe there is something that your soul really can't wait to share with you. Maybe there's something that you're being really called to let go of or to heal. And these medicines, Iboga specifically, is incredibly powerful. There is truly no words. I've tried my best to explain it, to relay the love, the reverence that I have for this medicine. But yeah, you'll know when and if you choose to experience it for yourself, if you feel the call to do so. It is an absolute honor if you do feel the call. I will say that. And yeah, I am wishing you a beautiful, abundant day. And don't forget how powerful you are. Don't forget that this life is a game that's meant to be played and meant to be lived out to the fullest. And you are just so much more magical than you can even comprehend. I'm sending you so much love, and I will talk to you again very soon.